thing we do want to bring up, though, which is something very, very interesting that I think needs more visibility, and it's kind of been showing out a bit more on the Twitter space over the past 24 hours. I've kind of been following the story for quite a bit now, but it's no secret, right, that Capcom Cup this year is mostly online, right? To qualify, it is all mostly online. That is just due to the the adaptation over time and allowing as many people as possible to compete as many regions. It's not viable when it comes to in person in certain areas, right? Just taking a look here, right? Offline premieres, we only have 3. There's one in France, there's one in Singapore, and then we have Evo itself, which happened earlier this year. When it comes to online, we now have, I think it's like a little over a dozen. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 17, with about 5 of them already done at this point, which actually I think one finished up. The last one that finished up was about a little over 2 weeks ago on the 10th with NL qualifying. So we still have a bunch of other regions: Central America, Brazil, South Africa, Europe, Asia Southeast, Japan, France, Spain, Portugal, UK, and North America Midwest, and North America East being the last one. So with online, right, it's great. It's a good thing. I don't think anyone here is arguing that having online qualifiers for any circuit is a bad thing, right? It's a good thing. It allows more people to play, more players, more opportunities for pro players to also make it, because being a pro in a traditional sense where you're traveling, especially if you're not sponsored, if you don't have that backing like that, you're self-sponsored by your wallet, like it's a daunting thing, and it's not an easy thing to take on. Those that do it, I will forever have my respect, and those that make it, those a small percentage, they are living that dream or that goal for themselves. So online gives you an opportunity to make it for everyone. So what happens when you take something and kind of make it more mainstream and more available, and for one also have a lot more money, right? Each one of these is 5,000 up for grabs. Not to say like that's the entire pot, right? There's that million at the end, right? For first place in when it comes to Capcom Cup, as well as like, I don't know, what was it, like 4th place? I'll take 4th place, because that's like 100K, 200,000, something like that. That's fine with me. But what happens when you take this online and you make it more available for everyone, and people just want to make, maybe if it's just they just want to win a premiere, right? You just want to win a premiere, whatever, get a couple thousand in your pocket, assuming that's 5,000 pre-tax. There's going to be people that are going to want to skirt the system, right? They're going to want to take every advantage they can, whether that's playing the best character that they can, the cheapest stuff, or result to potential cheats, for software advantages that were never meant to be there, that make you have a higher win rate and such, right? Those kinds of things. Well, and when it comes to online, it's a little bit of a wild west there, little bit. So one thing that's been showing up more recently have been those cheats, or really the market for cheats and trainers that are online to enable a lot of things, actually. A lot of things when it comes to playing online. So a Twitter member by name of Sheldon Typing, at Sheldon Typing, one word, talked was tagging Capcom Cup about it, paid cheats that are out there that are very much still current, getting adapted, getting updated, and are out there for anyone that to pay, $400, however much it is, to have things like always perfect parry, drive rush check, dynamic controls online. That's crazy to be able to enable that. But auto counter DI, auto throw tech, that's insane levels of ability to be given via just software. And the thing that's a killer is that at this point right now, like how are we able to check for this, right? This is strictly on PC. What I want to imply that it's strictly on PC. But in a world now where crossplay, right? Like crossplay and us campaigning for PC, as well as it being the modern standard, and console being a part of it, right? Crossplay being a thing, it's open to everyone. So this isn't really applying too much on console because there's a lot of technical stuff that's kind of like set in place for that. Not to say there isn't on PC, but there's just a lot of different ways to skirt around it. I.e., that's how we're getting things like mods, right? Like how we're getting mods into the game, where you're injecting Lua scripts, where you're using DLS files to bypass and inject data into the game. Well, this is what these mods, or rather these cheats, excuse me. I don't want to confuse mods and cheats as the same thing. But what these paid cheats are meant to do. They're meant to just be able to give you insane capabilities that are clearly above what your skills are as a player to win. And like, how are you able to tell it, right? This is all via software. We're not talking hardware wise. We haven't crossed that bridge yet. Like, if you think hardware isn't going to be a thing, like, give it some time. Like, the more money you put into these kinds of things, there will be people that will come up with some wild shit. If you don't believe me, go look up shit like cheating in esports in general, Counter-Strike, like anything that had money involved, like controllers, like injecting not malware, but trainers and cheats like this on via driver validation that you wouldn't notice unless you were deep into looking for it. Just in esports in general, like it's gonna eventually make our way here, and so this isn't really a big surprise. But the crazy part, the reason why I kind of went into this long tangent, is because we like I said, we campaigned for online, and now this year being the first year for Street Fighter 6 and having so much online qualifiers there, the big thing that these things pose is the competitive integrity when it comes to these brackets, when it comes to the tournaments, because we're talking like, oh, Joe Blow Spumoni could easily just load this up, for some reason pay $400 to try to pretend like he's nice, they're nice, and still get blown up potentially. But it's still like, that still disrupts the flow of how certain brackets could be. Complete outcomes like would be changed because of it. It's something to really look into. So like, what are you guys' thoughts on like this existing, like, and should Capcom be taking action like right away? Should they scale back on some of the online qualifiers? Because we've already got other pros that are tweeting about it, quoting it, and going like, yo, this is a problem. Just looking at some of the not the view quotes, but the Punk is out there. Phenom is like, it's a concern. They've already been seeing it. Like, I think there's like Brazil juries and such that are like kind of doing this. What are you guys' thoughts on what Capcom should really do about this?
I think they should just pay attention and address it. Address it as in one of those blue screens, one of those blue things, and come up with something that will please us or please anybody who's playing online. And especially playing online through CPT, if they want to create like a way to figure it out or find it out, or maybe they'll just disable PC, which would suck. It would suck a lot, but it would also kind of solve it very quickly for the time being until the time comes. Like, you can't fix it if obviously you're not the culprit, anybody who's playing on PC, but it takes away the possibility of somebody cheating, the integrity, as you said. You got to find a way to play it on PS5. Maybe that's the way.
Okay, so I love these things because it's so hard to maintain this ability to be like, okay, well, just fix it, right? I don't think there's an answer for it at the moment, and until they figure out what is allowing them to utilize the cheats and what's bypassing, it starts from your security. Do they have to get a new anti-cheat system? Does this, like you said, does this ruin mods moving forward? I mean, we see this in a lot of different things, from Counter-Strike to to Overwatch and many other games where there's always going to be cheaters, but how do you lock people out from playing in tournament when you have an open bracket? You can't. That's why it's kind of nice for some of the other competitive games like Counter-Strike and stuff like that, where you know the teams that are going into it. If someone cheats and you're aware, hey, guess what? That's a VAC ban. That person's never coming back, probably, more or less. But this is a little bit different because we do open brackets. Like, it's hard to contain cheaters, especially when money's on the line. $5,000. Yeah, people are definitely going to be enticed. Like, if you spend $400 and you can win and get your money back plus more, yeah, they'll do it. So it sucks, I have to say this, but I really like people being able to have the accessibility to play on anything. But I could see it really just getting locked to PS5 only and PS4 or PS5. So
yeah, people are like you said, they're kind of moving towards that. Like, hey, we need to talk. Especially if Capcom Cup is going to just continue to be primarily online, it anti-cheat and like being able to identify these things is the main concern. Which, I mean, I'm not saying they can't. I'm sure Capcom, there's already systems in place naturally. Like, game developers have created, and there's different games, different systems that do this. Even on the hardware level, even though this is strictly only software, because on the PC side, like we had a discussion about this with Ja about this, because he has good insight on it. Like, there's so many signals or so many ways that you can create things like a false positive on a PC versus console, where everything's standardized, right? Like, they look for certain patterns and certain I don't say algorithms, but rather they're pinpointing certain trends in the data that kind of help like identify, like, oh, if you see X, Y, and Z, flag that, because that means it's being created due to outside sources. It isn't actually being done by the player itself, or but that's tough, right? Like, how many times have you gone on ranked right now, everybody in here, and played someone and been like, yo, they perfect parried me like 2-3 times very well, and you're like, yo, they're the shit. They might actually be cheating, like you would not know.
But it's hard to tell, like, right? You know what I mean? Like, especially with like the way the landscape is now, where people can just be like, I don't really need to perfect parry everything, but maybe I want to tech throw everything. I'm a very good player at tech throwing, right? Naturally. So I'm always asked, like, how are you just teching throws so well? But if I was to play on PC and play online, people would be like, is this guy a cheater? Because he techs a lot of throws. Like, now it's like, it's going to ruin people who actually play the game competitively, right? So, like, you look at someone like Punk, Knuckledew, Snake Eyes, all these other people, they're going to be like, oh, are they cheating because they just did all this so well? Like, look at, what's the kid that plays JP that parried, like, over, like, 20-something times in one match?
I forget Homeboy's
starts
name.
with a K, I believe.
But the way you get about it is that you do that shit live. Right, you play at a tournament, right?
Yeah.
That's why offline still gets it's still like the bar, right? Like, you can be this nasty online player, but like, why is it that you went from this person that could practically perfect parry everything to like this person that can't parry fireballs correctly? Funny enough, like the footage that we're showing here during the show here live is showing a specific jury player that clearly has something going on, because they, one of the patterns, wait to tell, right? You can be like, okay, hey, you perfect parry, what are my buttons? That's fine. 2, you might be onto something, right? You might just be nasty, you might be looking it out. But then if you actually look at their play when it came to fireballs, and they couldn't perfect parry or parry them correctly, that's actually a telltale sign, because the way things like the actual cheat mod works is that it can tell where a character is by a character object, like the character, your opponent, but it can't track the same way when it comes to fireballs. So things like the parry don't automatically work that way. So it's things like that you have to like start developing and start figuring out how to look for.
Keep in mind, I think the thing that's going to save us at least a lot of time is the fact that we can look at replays with button inputs, right? Because like, these inputs are so perfect. Even I don't think anybody in the world gets 100% perfect inputs, and these look really perfect when he's doing combos, when he's doing perfect parry, like in situations where you're like, you perfect parry there, like it just input already.
Yeah.
So
but
I think it's really important to kind of keep note of.
It is. But I think, like I said, it's things like this is like what's gonna happen if it ever gets to that level. Like, I don't know who. because the thing about these cheats is that they get really intricate, right? You could have a block cheat on where it's like it will always block for you, but you can actually from what I'm understanding, you can actually change the percentage as well, so you can kind of make it vary. So you're like, oh, I'll block 70% of the time to kind of give it a little bit of that human error, so it makes it less detectable, at least through watching. But the other aspect is, like I said, that's why people are kind of going like, hey, offline, you might want to retract that, because offline is going to be the spot. It is really about doing it. If you're really about this, if this is really your skills, then you should have no problem doing it. And you know, doing it live in some way, shape, or form. It might not have to be on big stage, but you should be able to perform this right at that level. If you are at that level of competency in terms of the game, will we get someone that just blows it up? Or are we going to get the person's name is out there, Kalami, who starts the game on September 5th and is now beating the likes of Ending Walker and Akainu in ranked for free, that just started as a rookie, climbed to 2000 MR within September 13th like that, and just plays like an absolute god. But here's the thing, it's like, are there people like that can exist? That's why this is such a fucking gray area until you actually see, you know, you meet them in person, or rather you see them in person, actually see if you, with your own eyes, are they really about that? Are they cut from that fabric?
You know what I would like to see? Capcom say nothing and just randomly an update happens and no one knows what it is. That is in my opinion, the moment, okay, they could say we're going to address it. That's fine. Don't say when, don't say how, just say you're going to address it. And then randomly put out an update, right? Don't say what it does, don't say what it is. The reason why I think this is the right way to go about it is because the moment you say, hey cheaters, we're aware of what you're doing, we're going to do something about it. Now it gives them ample time to prep to counter, right? So if they just say, hey guys, we're aware of what's happening, we're going to look into it, right? Because you can't really tell if they're really going to look into it. It's a company. They can do whatever they want. But the moment a random update comes without no word, everybody has to be like, ooh, what was that? You know people are going to talk about it. So I think this is something necessary. I think maybe they might have to get a better anti-cheat system too. Yeah. Talk to Valve. I'm not saying they have the best. Not saying they have the best. But I think the moment they start discovering the idea of how to figure out who these people are cheating and figure out how to stop it, don't do the, oh, it kicks you out of game and then they get back on or make another account. Let's just start vac banning people. IP, whatever, no more. That's just how I see it. If you're cheating, you're cheating. Get banned.
Yeah, but like I said, when it comes to stuff like that, then the whole like false positives, right? And then there's like, oh, you need to be able to, you know. But is that something Capcom is willing to take on? That's what I mean.
They should,
because that's money, that's man hours, that's a whole other investment in it. But it doesn't mean securing the integrity of your online ecosystem. Is that worth it?
Run it online.
Exactly. Is it worth it? It might be. So, what do you guys think? Do you think these cheats are going to be as disruptive? Do you think we're going to start seeing some randos kind of show up? You know, they'll pay out the $400, but I mean, hey, $400, that prize money, 5Gs, pays for it in itself if you go on to online tournaments. Just saying, could be a thing. But let's